We now redirect you to the WTTW Radio Network.
Liberty, the condition of being free from restriction or control, the right and power to act, believe, or express oneself in a manner of one's own choosing, the condition of being physically and legally free from confinement, servitude, or forced labor, freedom from unjust or undue governmental control, a right or immunity to engage in certain actions without control or interference. And now, it's time for Liberty Talk Radio with Alex Horbol.
Let's stop talking. Yeah. Well, we're defecting. We're defecting from the mainstream, from the state. I don't care what. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio on the WTTW Radio Network on blogtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Alex Horbol, Guardian of the Republic, Defender of Liberty. Today is Thursday, January 5th, 2012, and man, we have a really good, very good show. We have a great guest tonight. Joining Barry and I is James Corbett of CorbettReport.com. He's very intelligent. He knows a lot of stuff, and I don't know if we're going to have a lot of time to get through everything that he knows. But, hey, Barry. Barry, you there?
I'm right here.
All right.
On the edge of my seat.
Same here. Mr. Corbett.
I don't know if I can live up to an introduction like that, but thanks for having me on.
Well, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you.
Very humble. He's being way too humble.
Well, yeah. But, the first time I heard you was on the Alex Jones show in 2010. And, I'm not going to put all this pressure on you, but along with Ron Paul and Alex Jones and people like you, got me motivated to do this show, and I would say Barry as well, but we won't put that much pressure on you. But
well, let me just say that is truly the best feedback I can ever possibly get, because that's all I've ever wanted to do with the work that I'm doing, is inspire other people to do what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is nothing special. So if other people can take the ball and run with it, I'm so happy to hear that.
Absolutely. So, I guess to start out, though, can we get a quick bio, get your background?
Yeah, how did you get involved? Who sparked you?
Absolutely. Well, okay, so I guess the overview bio, I'm actually Canadian. I live in Japan. I've been living out here since 2004, so about 8 years now, actually. Wow. Time flies. I came out here just for 1 year just to teach English and just see Asia a little bit and make some money while I'm at it, and I ended up staying. It's a wonderful country, so I really enjoy it here, and I just got sort of into my life here in Japan, so I really enjoyed it. And then it was really just a really basic event that started me along this path. I moved into a new apartment here in Japan, and this apartment came with a free internet connection as part of the deal, so I was pretty pumped about that. I hadn't had internet in my home for a couple of years at that point. I'd just been going to internet cafes or whatever. But once I got the internet in my home, I suddenly discovered all of these things that had happened online when I didn't have the internet. So I had YouTube and Google Video and all of these things, and iTunes even. Podcasting itself came up in the time that I didn't have the internet. So when I got this, I was like a kid in a candy store, just kind of going through as much information as I could, and starting down that amazing thing that the internet has opened up for us, which is we don't have to rely on corporate media to tell us what to tune into each Thursday night at 9 p.m. or whatever. We can decide for ourselves what we want to explore. And me being me, I started to explore documentaries and history and political things that I'd always been interested in to some degree, but had never really understood what was really happening. And it was from those, it was actually on YouTube that I started to see related videos that kept sending me to these 9/11 conspiracy theory videos, and I kept seeing these and clicking on them out of interest, and I thought, oh, that's kind of silly, oh, that's stupid, oh, I don't believe that. And I kept clicking on them, and I kept finding some that were ridiculous about flying orbs and things like that, but some that were actually really interesting about the collapses of the buildings and things. And eventually that started me down the rabbit hole. I started seeking out the more information. I found some long-form documentaries on Google Video. I started going down that rabbit hole. And within a few weeks, really, I started to say, well, wow, how come I've never heard any of this type of information about Osama bin Laden and his background and what was really happening there? And that was really what started me down the rabbit hole in earnest. And it was from there that I started to come to the conclusion, well, 9/11 clearly seems to have been some sort of inside job, but that can't possibly be. How could that work? And then I saw The Money Masters, an absolutely excellent documentary. It's about 3.5 hours long, but it goes through a lot of very essential information about the way the Federal Reserve was set up and what the system really is. And once that penny dropped, I think it was game over for my old worldview. I suddenly realized how really the entire world could be this type of illusion that they've crafted for us with this money that they print out of nothing. So it was from that point that I really started going down the rabbit hole. And then it was people like Alex Jones that really started me to get into this, because it was his message that anyone can do this and just go out there, start your own website, do something. So I decided I'll do that. And it was really, I mean, I'm not a particularly spontaneous guy, but it was one of the few spontaneous things I've ever done. I just decided one day, that's it, I'm starting a website. So I started CorbettReport.com in mid-2007. It was just going to be a podcast, but that expanded into videos and articles and interviews and everything I'm doing now, and it's just grown from there. It's just a snowball that hasn't stopped rolling yet. So I'm going with it as long as we have this free and open internet, because it's an absolutely remarkable time to be alive in so many ways.
Well, yeah, you seem to be very spontaneous. Not many people move to Japan and then just stay, but
that's true. That's one of the other spontaneous things I ever did.
Yeah. I think we hear you, and so very good background there. Hey Barry, you want to start off with a first topic?
Well, it's something that I just wanted to say that one of the things that brought me to CorbettReport.com initially was you did a show, you did a couple of them, maybe more, about Patriot mythology.
Mm-hmm.
Or the concept of Patriot mythology. And I kind of liked that idea that it seemed like, I don't know how to put this diplomatically, but like really brave. You know what I mean? Like that anyone would like pick through common notions that we all may, misnotions that we all may have, and challenge any one of those, you know, without, it's kind of like you did a show about Ron Paul, and you called it the Ron Paul trap. And you didn't mean it that way, but like you're willing to like step into that firestorm. You're willing to walk on the coals, it seems like, to get the real discussion out of it. And that's how I came to you. But I was wondering about the Patriot mythology. Was there anything else like that you could tell me that maybe wasn't on those shows that you've come across, as far as maybe little tidbits that we carry?
Well, there are other ideas that I'm working on for perhaps future installments of that because in my podcast I have certain sort of theme episodes that I go back to. So things like Patriot mythology, I have a Lessons in Resistance theme, I have Requiem for the Suicided, talking about the various people who have supposedly committed suicide in outrageous fashions and things like that. So for the Patriot mythology, I've been kicking around some ideas, but some of them are just silly. I mean, they're not that important, like the YouTube 301 view things. But that just comes from my frustration in continuing to see people on every single video that has 301 views, but more likes and dislikes, and they all say it's a conspiracy by YouTube. But it happens on every video, including non-political ones and things that have nothing to do with politics at all. So I don't know, things like that. But I haven't really decided, what's going to go in the next episode. But it's interesting to me that those episodes have received such incredibly positive feedback, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. I was expecting a lot more angry emails, and really, the first time I did that Patriot Mythology episode, I didn't get any negative feedback. The second time I got 2 or 3 angry emails, but the vast majority were in favor. So I'm glad to see there are people out, and it doesn't surprise me. I think people do want to hear truth. I mean, just plain truth, whether that's in support of the ideas that they've been told to believe or in disfavor. I mean, I think we all arrived at this by questioning what we fundamentally believed about the world in the first place. That's certainly how I got here. So I'm not going to stop doing that just because I'm now in the alternative media and somehow the alternative media is 100% correct about everything ever. I mean, of course that's not the case. So I just want to point out when I make mistakes or when there's things that are being propounded that are wrong, I just want to make sure that we're keeping it honest. So that's really the
critical thinking.
Yeah.
Now,
the critical thinking that got you there, you got to stick with it.
Exactly.
We were actually live on New Year's Eve, and right when we were about to go into bonus time, which is obvious, it's not live. We're actually go into podcast mode. We got reports that there was a 7.0 earthquake in Japan, and that made us so motivated to stay on. But I think I tried to contact you on Skype. You were probably busy.
Oh, right, yeah.
What happened? What was going on there? I was just...
as far as I know, it was just the 7.0 earthquake, which is, I mean, it's pretty big. Mm-hmm. But I mean, in Tokyo, it's not unimaginably big. And it was a big earthquake, and they felt it over there, from what I understand. But it wasn't
okay,
world changing or anything. But in my part of Japan, I'm on the western part of the main island. It's a few hundred miles from Tokyo, so we didn't feel anything. We didn't feel anything from the March 11th earthquake. I mean, our area of Japan is one of the safest, actually. There's not really big earthquakes here. There's no volcanoes, no big tsunamis, and no typhoons. Well, typhoons, but they're not that big. So, I mean, it's a pretty safe area of Japan, which is a pretty incredible country in a lot of ways. It's like Godzilla is always attacking.
Yeah. I actually have a friend from high school who's also a teacher over there in Japan as well. He was in the Marine Corps, and but yeah, anyway. So, man, there's so much to talk about, but I think, I mean, Barry would probably disagree, but I think Iran's pretty big subject right now. Well, I don't know if he'd disagree with that, but he doesn't necessarily think the war. He doesn't necessarily think that the war, a war with Iran, will start sooner rather than later. But with everything that's going on, and you hear from different news outlets that, Iran doesn't have this, they don't have battleships, they don't have planes, but then you see in videos, oh wait, there's the battleships, there are the planes, and well, we know that they don't have nukes. I mean, you just know, But what's your report? What do you have to say about what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz and everything that you've gathered?
Well, I mean, obviously we're seeing just an incredible build-up in the rhetoric and the talk again, but this is something that we have been seeing for so many years now. In fact, my second ever podcast episode way back in, I think, June 2007 was about the war with Iran. And, I mean, we've seen this come and go in waves. So it's right to point out, I mean, this may not be it. It may not happen this month. It may not happen this year. But we've seen the buildup in rhetoric so many times that all it takes during these times of increased warmongering is just some type of incident. And it could be so many different types of incidents, from a full-out false flag like Dick Cheney planned back in, I think it was 2008, that Seymour Hersh came out and revealed, Americans were planning to paint up American boats and to look like Iranian PT boats and attack ships in the Strait of Hormuz and blame it on the Iranians. And that came out in 2008. Luckily, that didn't happen, but that very much could set off the tension. It could be a type of Gulf of Tonkin incident where nothing actually happens. I mean, absolutely there's nothing, but they just report, oh, wait, we've been attacked, so we have to go to war. I mean, that's the kind of thing that makes me nervous, because it's so easy for them to just set something up right now, and that's what I'm really worried about. But whether it'll happen or not this month or next month or this year or next year, I don't predict that, really. I just say that right now we're at full red alert right now, because, I mean, even if you look at Foreign Affairs, the CFR Journal, they just had a recent editorial why we must attack Iran or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. So it's really getting off the charts right now.
Yeah, the CFR Journal, that's probably one place everybody should be looking for information, because I mean, it's the CFR. They help plan and organize a lot of this
stuff. That's right. In fact, I had a podcast episode about that, a pretty popular one called "Listening to the Enemy," and in that podcast, I went through things like the CFR has their own weekly podcast. It's called The World Next Week, mm-hmm. which is where James Evan Pilato and I got the name for our weekly YouTube video series, New World Next Week. We're just ripping on the CFR there.
Oh, yeah.
And another excellent source for interviews and things along those lines is Fareed Zakaria on CNN. He has a Global Public Square GPS, and they have a free video podcast. You can download the entire show every week. Absolutely every single week, just incredibly important interviews with some of the key globalists. So it really is important to be taking a look at what they're saying and what kind of rhetoric they're putting out, because really, I mean, it's like following a moving target, but if we see where they're going, we know what's going to come next. So I really hope people are listening to things like that and not just going to the alternative media, because they put out so much of this in their own documents and in their own interviews that we don't have to, scry the tea leaves to see what's coming. We can just listen to what they're saying.
Yeah, that's it. Just sounds like Alex Jones. That's like how he works too. And I'm kind of learning from that. To be honest with you, You absolutely, and I didn't know about what you just mentioned, because I mean, listening to the globalists, you got to keep your. And I would love to have someone like Kissinger come on the show, but obviously that would never happen. Or
not like
that. I'm serious. I would.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because I would love to be able to talk to people like that as well, just to pick their brains about what they are really, where they're coming from and what's coming down the line. But of course, they won't ever appear on something like us. But we could get to the people who are or second layer type of people. A couple of years ago, there was a guy named the name's going to escape me off the top of my head. But he wrote a book called Superclass, and he was formerly the head of Kissinger and Associates. So he was Kissinger's main underling, and he did appear on Alex Jones, and I'm sure it would probably be up for other media interviews. I have never actually tried, but I will after I hang up with you. And he wrote a book called Superclass that was all about how there are 6,000 people in the world who are these kind of super globalists, and they can act in ways that transcend national boundaries and all of this, and these are the people who are setting the world agenda and everything. And he was writing it in a good way. Oh, this is so great to have all these people, who can set the agenda. But so Alex had him on and did a good job trying to draw out some of his...
David Rothkopf.
Yes, thank you, Rothkopf. I knew that.
I'm about to buy the book. I have it on Amazon here. And to be honest, when you're talking about reading, I got to read something that's really going to capture my attention. I love reading about New World Order stuff.
Eugenicists taking over the world, that captures your attention.
Of course,
should.
If it doesn't, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
But definitely going to try and get that book, and maybe we'll even try to contact him. But I'm sure you'll have a lot easier time. Of course, I'm sure he's not going to be that easy to get a hold of. But
yeah, well, we'll find out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I will.
I'm curious about something. Has James ever heard of Stephen Gladstone, who we had on the show, I think, last week? He's supposedly, I guess, from this huge, big globalist family, and he's been kind of blackballed out of it, and he was spilling the beans on the show. Have you heard anything about the Gladstone family? He said there's prime ministers in his family's past and stuff. Does that ring a bell or not off the top of your head?
The name Gladstone, sounds familiar, but I don't know Stephen Gladstone.
Yeah. he's actually huge in the music industry here in the United States, or at least was. I guess now he's just not really doing much of the work for the globalists anymore. But he was, I believe, a producer and a songwriter. You know, I don't know if you'd be interested in listening to any of our interviews, but if you go back...
That's an interesting one, though. Wow.
Yeah, I sure would. If you let me know when you did that, I'll
link it to you in an email. But it was just so interesting hearing him talk about how the Freemasons are so in control of the music industry here, and that 2012 is, you know, the end of the Freemason reign over the world, essentially. I mean, that's what he believes, and it's really interesting to hear it. But he might be a good guest for you.
Absolutely. Well, I'll take a look into that and listen to your interview as well. But it certainly it would come as no surprise that a lot of insiders in the entertainment industry know a lot about the agenda, because there are so many connections there. And you listen to people like Alan Watt, who was formerly a musician in the music world, and some of the stories he tells about some of the people he met and things that he encountered in that world. And certainly I think we see the globalist agenda is always forwarded and promoted and somehow reflected in the entertainment industry, because that's all it is. It's just another industry that they control like everything else. So it's a good place for insider information, I think.
When you're talking about especially country music, they're essentially setting the stage for, you know, getting people to want to buy into the wars. And you hear the Dixie Chicks, you know, singing about the Marines and, you know, and stuff like that. It's just, you're like, right. Oh man, it was motivational for me when I enlisted back in 2007. I heard all these songs and I'm like, I'm gonna go over there and kick some hardcore enemy butt. And then I woke up in 2010 after I'd been out for several years, and I'm like, what was I thinking? Mm-hmm. You know, the music had, believe it or not, it had a lot to do.
Oh, I don't doubt it. It's absolutely a key part of the entire indoctrination scheme, and it's why they keep going back to it, and why they keep those people in those industries so close. And it's such a vital part, because we are so controlled by the media programming, literally, that we take on board, and we're all victim to that to some extent. So snapping out of it is extremely hard to do. But that's why I think, I mean, artists who are on the side of truth, I mean, can be so powerful for unlocking minds as well, and I think that's why we have to, you know, celebrate works that do that.
Barry Paul.
Absolutely.
Barry Paul is, I got to tell you, he is probably my favorite artist. He makes a lot of great music talking about truth, and you would just have to hear it. I mean, I don't know if it would be your kind of
which the music industry wants nothing to do with, by the way.
Yeah, he's already.
But anyway, yeah. Enough about me. I want to hear what James has to say. First of all, about I want to get into the NDAA at some point for sure. I don't want to forget. I want to get his thoughts on that, and then, but also one of the best things I've heard that you've done is the episode you did on the Galton Institute. That was amazing. And you talked about it. What was the name of the Galton Institute before they changed it? I probably wouldn't get it right, but it's interesting.
It was the British Eugenics Society, so it was pretty in your face. Yeah.
That didn't work out. For some reason, that didn't work out.
No, for some reason that became discredited. But it's interesting because in America, all of the Eugenics Society and all of that was dropped in the 50s. They dropped it like a stone, obviously, after the Nazi atrocities came out and all of that. But
not right away.
Well, not right away. It took a few years, but the transition certainly happened in the 50s. But in Britain, the British Eugenics Society maintained its name all the way up to 1989, and then they finally got with the program and we should change to Galton Institute. But yeah, I mean, so they're just so out in the open. And it was interesting. A couple of years ago, their website was really old and outdated. It looked like it had been made in 1998 or something. It was really quite quaint. But they had on their list of things that they were interested in supporting. It was all about, you know, birth control and abortion and stuff in the third world, and donating to abort children in Africa and stuff. I mean, it was just so blatant what they were doing. And they've kind of cleaned it up now, but still, I mean, you know what they're all about.
Yeah, it's Bill Gates style. Yeah, I hear you.
Because they love those little brown babies so much. They just want to kill them. It's so wonderful.
So you got to make room for their kids.
There's these eugenicist murderers in fancy buildings with fancy institutes. It's sickening.
sickening to my core, and that's one of the things that really has motivated me. That's one of the things that I learned about in the process of doing the podcast. It wasn't something that I was really aware of when I started the podcast, but then it was in late 2007, Alex Jones came out with Endgame, and it was all of the stuff around that got me really researching into eugenics and really understanding how absolutely vital to their agenda this entire eugenics religion is, because that's really what it is at base. It's a religion to them that they truly believe themselves to be superior, and they believe this to be some sort of scientific fact, and it's quite disgusting. And the worst part of it is when you present people with just some of their quotes and things about they're building their super race of themselves and their families. People have been programmed to think this is a great thing, because I think everyone secretly thinks, oh, I'm part of that. I'm part of the elite, so it's good. Kill off all those other people. But if you go to there's a YouTube video I did a few years ago now on eugenics. I think it's just called Eugenics up on YouTube. It's got, 40,000 views now. And it's just quotes of people from the past, people that we've been taught to respect as, influential people, presidents and Margaret Sanger and people like that, talking about how all these vile people need to be killed, and we have to, further the great race by getting rid of all these riffraff and stuff. And there's just quotes like that, and to me they were very shocking and horrific quotes about these cold-blooded killers who want to kill people. But all the comments are like, oh, it's so great. What's wrong with this? We want to improve the species and stuff like that. So it's a long way to go to break through that programming and show people, no, you're not part of the elite, and you're not going to benefit from this. They want to kill you.
Yeah, you're right, and they're not part of it, and it's a moral. Whether you believe in God or religion, it doesn't matter. Something inside you is seriously screwed up if you believe that killing people, even trying to sterilize them, is just so wrong. I mean, they don't understand. They can't understand the concept that nature will find a way, and it always has.
Sick people with sick mentalities want to destroy or to dumb down or to hurt people that they can't control, or things that they don't like. But it's absolutely the fundamental opposite of that is what drives me, is the urge to try to build people up and to see people create something beautiful and something better for this world. And I can't understand the people who are motivated by trying to destroy instead of trying to create.
Yes. All right. Just talking about it's getting me kind of just anxious. But
now what's up, aren't you? Yeah.
You know how I am, Barry.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Ron Paul, you're not gonna be here. Well, you're not an American citizen. Are you actually a citizen of Japan now?
I'm still a Canadian citizen. I have my residence here, but it's not permanent residence. It's extremely difficult to get Japanese citizenship, and I'm not sure I'd even want to do that. I'm planning I will probably return to Canada at some point. I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm married here, and the longer I stay here, the more I'm going to stay here probably. But no, I'm actually a Canadian citizen.
Okay. Well, yeah, it slipped my mind, and I'm thinking, oh man, what does he think? Is he going to vote for Ron Paul? And for a second, I forgot he lived in Japan. But what do you think? What are you thinking about Ron Paul?
Well, certainly if I was there, I would be voting for Ron Paul, no question about it. He's the one that's bringing this the idea of liberty to a bigger stage than we have ever seen in our living memory, certainly. So just this what he's already accomplished by bringing some of these ideas to the table and saying radical, revolutionary things like bring the troops home on national TV. I mean, wow, unthinkable.
I know, what a jerk, right?
Yeah, exactly. So absolutely, I'm totally behind Ron Paul on that and what he's doing. I hesitate on the gold standard type of stuff. I have different ideas on economics, but still, I mean, we have to get rid of the Federal Reserve System. So again, the only candidate who's talking about that is Ron Paul. So in so many ways, I'm absolutely a total supporter of Ron Paul. What's happening to him and what is likely to happen to him is not surprising. But again, I think we have to look at this as a long-term game, not just as just a little tiny event that's going to take place in the next year and suddenly solve all our problems. So, I mean, I think the real thing that's important here is to get people excited and motivated about liberty, to see that we can do something on the national stage, and then to get people motivated in their own local communities to step up to the plate and start taking some of the weight. Because Ron Paul is a great person for this, but he's 76 years old. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of time left on the political stage, and we need more and more people coming up. And it's really, thousands, millions of people eventually linking together that's going to do this, not one man.
Yeah, and Alex had to step away for just a moment, as he usually does about this time of the show, and I usually take over. But by the way, if you're just joining us, anybody, we are talking to James Corbett from CorbettReport.com, one of my absolute can't-miss podcasts and radio shows out there, and we're really thrilled that James could be here tonight. We've been talking about just a whole range of subjects, and we have the advantage here with the internet radio format to not have to go to breaks, and so we're just talking straight through. And Mr. Corbett is the champ and a news ninja who is tackling every topic that we pull out of our pocket. And so let's just continue on, more news ninja tactics. I got to hear your take on the NDAA. Obviously, a lot of people are very concerned, and this is waking a lot of people up, but it seems like it might be waking them up a bit too late. What do you think, James?
Yeah, well, anyone who has taken this long to understand that America is becoming a police state, or already is a police state, to be more accurate, is probably a bit behind the curve, shall we say. But yes, at least it is really and truly waking a lot of people up, and in a bigger way than I've seen in the last few years anyway, than any other single piece of tyranny that's come along to take its place. I mean, we've seen certain events and things that have really shaken people out of their slumber, but this one really seems to be getting to people who have been just towing the line with Obama, and he's a good man, but he's just trying to fight the system, and he can only do so much, and all of those Obamanoids who just can't get it through their head that Obama's just another part of the system that's enslaving them. And finally, a lot of so-called progressives and liberals who have been going along with everything Obama does, including bombing Libya in order to save them and all of that garbage, have finally started to say, oh wait, maybe this person actually does not care about us, and maybe he's actually just serving the interests that are controlling him. And we've seen that even, I mean, people like the Young Turks and things, who I disagree with on so many points, but they've came out with a great video breaking NDA it down, and why the people who are defending Obama on this are wrong, and this truly is a terrifying piece of legislation. So it is good in that sense. It's also interesting to me how this NDAA, I mean, even by Obama's own words, he says, well, I don't need this in order to incarcerate people. I already have that power because of the powers that were given to the president via the resolution just after 9/11, when to wage the whole war on terror. Well, he can take enemy combatants anywhere in the world. That includes America. So he doesn't need this. But so he's absolutely just going full out total tyranny in your face right now and saying he can do anything he wants at any time. And so this legislation, I'm not sure it actually really does change anything, but at least it lets the people who were asleep know, this truly is happening, and the tyranny takeover is already here. But and now we have the next piece of that tyranny pie is coming down the table, and we have I think it's HR 3166, which is about the Enemy Expatriation Act. Just another incredible piece of tyranny. Apparently this was introduced just last year in December by Representative Charles Dent, and the short form summary is that this adds engaging in or supporting hostilities against the United States to the list of acts for which United States nationals would lose their nationality. You can literally now be stripped, or once this passes, you will literally be able to be stripped of your citizenship simply by being declared a terrorist by the powers that be. So it gets more and more in your face, and it's good to see that people are starting to stand up about this. But can you imagine anything more tyrannical than that?
Yeah, it's really. I was saying today to somebody, my friend Troy Silvers, I mean, as far as the NDAA goes, what worse could they say on paper? It's like the worst thing you could say on paper is what they've decided to put out. And I hate to bring it up, but there's some really weird stuff in that bill. about, did you hear, just, you don't have to comment in full, but I'm sure it came up about bestiality. The military is now legalized.
Right, yes.
Very
I only
bizarre.
found out about that last week, and when I saw it, my jaw dropped. I mean, I didn't believe it when I heard it until I looked it up, and I just couldn't believe,
Well, let me drop this bombshell on you. Do you remember that in the drug laws, they refer to, in America, and probably all around the world, they refer to us as animals.
Right, yes. Exactly. Right. No, I remember that, because if you just declare yourself to be a human, then they can't really tell you what to do legally in terms of putting things in your body.
I'm not saying much more than that. It's just that those two facts together could make up a better explanation of what might be going on there. That's just opinion. But anyway.
No, but it is interesting the things that they slip into this legislation. Because, I mean, who even found out about that? Because there's just so much other things going on in that legislation. Who would even think to look for something like that?
Well, yeah, and the fact that, like the healthcare bill, we never even got time to really dig through all of that, those thousands of pages. As long as they keep doing this stuff fast enough, there's no way we can keep up. So what do we do?
Yeah. Well, the essence of tyranny in a democracy is just to put enough verbiage on the table that no one can ever possibly go through it unless you're, even if you are full-time committed to it, you still couldn't possibly go through all the legislation that's being passed each year. And that in itself is a form of tyranny, because if you can't be expected to know the laws, there's no way you can possibly be expected to fulfill all of them. But that's exactly how the system works. And, of course, that's how the tax code works, where the average person just cannot do it by themselves. They need to crawl hand in cap to an accountant and tax lawyers and all of this to try to figure out what's going on, which, can you think of anything more tyrannical than that? I mean, it's the government basically forcing you to jump through all these hoops in order to fund itself.
Yeah, and James, I don't know if I heard this on your show or not, but there's no question in my mind. I don't know if you agree, but from where I live and what I can look up and see it, there is some kind of spraying going on. This chemtrail phenomenon is obviously, to me, now real. Have you done any work on that? Any research on that?
Absolutely, yes, I do. I see it quite frequently here, unfortunately. I did a podcast episode on it, and it was called Geoengineering and You. So if you look that up, it's also on YouTube. I made it a video podcast as well. So I have talked about that, and one of the things that really struck me about that here in Japan is that I hadn't noticed it here in the first few years I was here, but it was a couple of years ago now. I was a teacher, an English teacher, teaching at a school at that point, and we were out on the school grounds preparing for a sports day, so the kids were out practicing. And I just looked up in the sky, and I noticed a plane going over and leaving a trail. And I thought, there he goes. And then there was another, and then another, and another. And literally within an hour, this completely blue sky turned into this murky, I don't even know what to call it, almost like a spider webby kind of, not cloud, but just this murky substance up there, and it completely covered the sky horizon to horizon. And I looked up and I pointed up, and I was trying to tell one of the teachers, that's not cloud. Did you notice that? That isn't actually cloud. And he didn't quite get what I was saying, so but it's so amazing to me that it can happen literally over your head like that, and no one notices a thing.
It's amazing. Why can't they see it? I ask myself this all the time. Why can't they see it?
I don't know. Because they don't want their mind to believe in anything else that's going to harm them. Ignorance is bliss. That's such a simple answer.
Well, our perception of the world, our everything, including what we actually see and what we process, goes through our worldview filter. And if it is not part of our worldview, there are things that happen we literally can't see, we literally can't hear, we literally don't process in any way. And that's a pretty amazing thing to think about, but it's nonetheless true. And I have no doubt that a few years ago, if someone had told me about that before I got into all of this, I would have said, "Oh, you're just being crazy." But there it is. I mean, it really does require a complete change in someone's worldview. And again, I wish there was just some easy magic formula for just switching people over so that they can see what's going on, but there certainly isn't. So it's different for each person. I'm sorry. In your opinion, what are they doing? What is the spraying?
seen several explanations, but what have you come upon?
That's right. I mean, I've seen several explanations too, and I don't think I have any better grasp of it than anyone else. I'm certainly not privy to any insider information, and I think, I mean, we certainly have to be analyzing it and trying to look for what they're doing, but honestly, it could be so many other things that we have absolutely no idea about, because when you really think about it, what technologies does the U.S. government and the military have that we have no idea even exists? And so, I mean, we can speculate about it from behind the curtain, as it were, but who knows what's going on behind there. So I don't know. I mean, I've heard a lot of different explanations, but ultimately I can't say what's really happening there.
Well, I guess the same goes for HAARP, and, but there are things that we do know for sure, that the government is selling drugs to fund their CIA operations. And I don't know, Barry, when I was away, did you mention Wayne Madsen, the interview with Wayne Madsen? I just thought this was the craziest one, maybe even crazier than, not crazy, but like crazy. I can't believe what I'm hearing. I don't know. I think you might be interested in that as well. It had something to do with the Giffords, the Arizona Giffords shooting. Story.
Yeah, huge story. Seldomly covered there was that Wayne Madsen had a source come to him, some official source, about the Gabrielle Gifford shooting, and our show was one of two shows, I think, that he went on to talk about it. And the only other way to know about it was subscription through his website. But anyway, yeah, that's
interesting.
I'm just bringing it up.
He made a connection between the Gifford shooting and Fast and Furious. I should put in there. That's what's interesting and new about it.
Right.
Very interesting.
I thought maybe you just hadn't heard about it. I think it would be great to have you dig in. And
absolutely, send it to me. I'd be really interested in that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I know Madsen does so much work, so much incredible reporting that it's really difficult to keep up with everything he's doing.
Well, it's true. Yeah. I guess the same could be said for you. I mean, your website. I still obviously I haven't gone through everything yet. You've got hundreds of interviews, videos, podcasts, radio, articles. You have a lot of great stuff with Bob Chapman, which I was listening to today.
I just did 500 YouTube videos. 500?
Wow.
Yeah.
So, everybody, if you want to check it out, I did find the eugenics one. It's just eugenics. It's probably the second video that pops up on YouTube. And it's just, Corbett Report? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
Yeah, well, there you go. And as you'll notice, there are lots of uninformed comments on that video, shall we say.
I didn't have a chance to read them yet, but I will after.
Yeah, the top comment, well, hell, I agree with most of the quotes there.
Yeah.
So that's the top comment right now. All right, great, good to know.
Well,
thanks for weighing in.
Yeah.
How much time do we have left with you tonight?
Well, I can do another 20 minutes.
Wow, awesome.
Excellent. I got a question for you.
Sure.
If you don't mind. So what's next for you? I mean, you've really got a lot going now. You seem to be working with so many other people and producing so much material, as Alex pointed to there. What's on your plate here coming up? Like, what's the big next step?
Well, I definitely want to try to get more of my stuff out this year. I've been not dragging my feet. It's just I literally haven't had time to do things like putting together DVDs and things, which are not just important for funding what I'm doing, although that is important. I mean, I really do rely on that because now I'm not teaching anymore. I'm doing this full time. Mm-hmm. But also in terms of getting some of this information, like I as you say, I have hundreds of interviews now, hundreds of podcasts, hundreds of videos that spans so much material that I know a lot of people who are just coming into this or just waking up don't really know about, but it's all there. So I want to try to get this out and also get it out in a non-internet way on some sort of hard disk or something that people can carry around, because as we know, with all this SOPA stuff and all of this craziness, it's so important to be saving things to hard drives and getting things, trying to get things off of the internet as well as on the internet. So I'd like to do more of that this year and hopefully release a bunch of DVDs that are compiling different parts of what I've done and trying to highlight some of my work. But also, other than that, I have that relationship with globalresearch.ca. They have the Global Research TV that I'm doing videos for. And they're looking into starting to expand what they're doing in terms of making documentaries and things. So we're talking about myself doing trips to various places to do on-the-scene reporting in various places. So we'll see how that works. I don't know. They had Mahdi Nazem Roya from Global Research was in Libya for a few months last year, actually, and he was involved in the siege of Tripoli when they came, and then all of that craziness. I mean, just incredible stuff. So if you haven't seen my interviews with him, you might want to check that out. But that's, I guess, the type of thing we're looking into expanding into. So who knows if that'll happen this year or how that develops. But I'm interested. I hope I'm up to the task. I know all of my failings, trust me. So I hope I'm up to it. But that's what I want to get more into as we proceed.
James, tell us about the DVD thing you have out right now. You have like a data compilation.
That's right. I have 2 DVDs out right now. I have one, it's a 2009 video archive, and that's an actual video DVD you can play in any DVD player. It's and basically 90 minutes of various interviews and reports that I did in 2009, talking about everything from 9/11 to suppressed news stories from 2009, interviewing Dr. Tim Ball about climate change, all that kind of stuff. And that's been out for a couple of years now. And then just last month, I released a data DVD, which is every single interview, podcast episode, video, and article that I read or that I wrote or created from the beginning of the Corbett Report until the end of 2008. So that's, I think, over 6 gigabytes of data. It was actually going to be everything from 2007 to 2009, but it physically wouldn't fit on a disc. So, so I just made it 2007, 2008, and that's the first one. And obviously this year I'm going to try to bring out a 2009 and 2010 data DVD as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Tim Ball, and I actually started to listen to that interview you did with him yesterday, and I got like 11 and a half minutes in, and I got distracted, but I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, he's just an absolute wealth of knowledge, but if you want to get into some of the climate change talks we had, the one yesterday was kind of on a different topic a little bit, but if you want to get into some of the climate change stuff we did, you could start on YouTube, actually. I have a couple of videos with him, just the short videos, but they were sort of going into the ClimateGate. There was one video that I did. I recorded an interview with him in the summer of 2009 when I was back in Canada for a few weeks. And when I got back to Japan, I was going through, I had 3-4 hours of footage with him. So I was going through and like, I need something just short that I can put up on YouTube that'll be interesting for people. So I just picked this one part of our conversation, and it's just a little 6 or 7 minutes. But it was exactly the topic that eventually became ClimateGate. It was about these people at this university, and they were holding on to all of their data, and they weren't really releasing it to anyone, and it was really suspicious. And lo and behold, a couple of months later, we had that big, they call it a hack, but I think it was actually a leak. But anyway, all the emails coming out from the University of East Anglia and basically exposing all of the shenanigans that were going on behind the scenes in trying to create the climate change myth. So that was really interesting for me to see, oh, wow, I picked the exact 5 minutes of our talk where he talked about the exact thing that became the biggest story in all of climate change history. So that was cool. But he's absolutely a wealth of knowledge. And it's interesting to me to see all of the attacks on him that you can find on all those various websites. I won't do them justice by giving their names, but I mean, all the attacks about, oh, he's not really a proper climate scientist, and he didn't publish enough peer-reviewed journals, and all of that kind of stuff. And then when you actually talk to him as a human being, I mean, he is genuinely enthused about science. I mean, you can tell this is someone who spent his entire life in science, and that's all he cares about. And he has this incredible wealth of knowledge about science and history and philosophy, and yet people are trying to smear him that, oh, he's just not, he doesn't know what he's talking about or whatever. It's just such a bizarre thing. And it's interesting also to me, I started a website called climategate.tv to go over the climate science shenanigans that are going on. And immediately after starting that website, one of those websites that likes to smear anyone who gets involved in the debate put up this post about, oh, the climate deniers have their own TV station now, climategate.tv. And they're talking about, oh, the only thing that's not mentioned on this site is where the funding comes from, which is hilarious to me because A, it's not a TV station, it's a website, so I don't know what they're talking about. And B, I started it myself. I use GoDaddy as my hosting. I know there's a lot of problems with GoDaddy, but I used GoDaddy, and it's literally like $5 a month. So $60 a year, and it was a free WordPress template to use for the website. So if the oil industry is paying me for my $60 a year website, I mean, it's so stupid to see. I mean, once you become personally part of those types of ridiculous smears, I mean, it's so transparent. But unfortunately, it works on a lot of people.
Yeah, I believe it was Maurice Strong from the UN. I think he's a chairman, or at least was. I believe he is. Who basically made up this entire the ClimateGate scam. I mean, am I wrong here?
He brought together he put together the Earth Summit in Rio in '92. That was the real kickoff for the UNFCCC, which uses the UNFCCC, I should say, that uses the IPCC that relies on people like the Climate Gators. So he's definitely been a central part of organizing this and creating the entire meme. And he's just a bizarre figure when you look into his history. A junior high school dropout who suddenly started rubbing elbows with Rockefeller and ended up becoming, one of the highest-ranking officials in the UN and doing all of this, and now lives in China and all of the craziness associated with him. Just a bizarre story, but you're exactly right. It's people like that, and it's funny. People like myself get attacked. I'm being secretly funded for my $60 a year website, whereas Phil Jones, the head of the climate research unit at the University of East Anglia, part of the ClimateGate emails revealed he had received $20 million over the last 20 years in various fees and government grants and things. I mean, just ridiculous amounts of money, and here I am with a $60 website being attacked because I'm secretly funded. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, you got to just kind of. I mean, I'm sure you're really good at telling those people where to go.
Think about it. Tell them what's in the letters. The whole ClimateGate thing. Tell them. A quick sample. What did these letters tell us, James? Roughly, what was going on?
Well, I mean, there's so many different aspects to it, but let's just look at ClimateGate 2, because as I hope people know, a couple of months ago there was a part 2 to the whole ClimateGate affair where a new batch of emails were released. And one of the, there's so many other things in there, and so much that people really should go and start reading some of the emails for themselves, and they can do that at climategate.tv, my website. But one of the emails I found very interesting was one of the people involved in all of these shenanigans was emailing one of the so-called hockey stick team, which is the people that have been promoting this graph that we've all seen a million times of the rise of temperatures in the last 50 years, and how it shows this unbelievable upward incline. They call it the hockey stick because it's shaped like a hockey stick. And there was one of the people in there who was saying one of the criticisms that has been leveled at that for a number of years now is that if you take the actual equations that the person who was putting this forward, a guy named Michael Mann, if you take those equations, no matter what data you feed in, it comes up with a hockey stick. And so one of the emails from ClimateGate is showing one of the people that's associating with this guy going, it looks like they're right. I put in some garbage data, and it really does come up with a hockey stick every time. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's things like that. And of course, the standard refrain is, it's all been investigated, and they've been cleared of any wrongdoing, which, A, is a lie, because, in fact, in January of 2010, the Information Commissioner of the UK found that Phil Jones actually did break the law. He did break the law. It was illegal what he did, threatening to delete emails that had been requested by Freedom of Information in the UK, which is against the law. It's completely 100% a violation. He was 100% guilty of it, but they couldn't pursue it because of statute of limitations clauses, because that email was over 5 years old or whatever it was. So they get to say, nothing came of it. But also all of the investigations, I mean, each one, there was a parliamentary investigation in the UK that took a grand total of 1 day, and the head of that investigation later came out and said, we had to rush it because there was an election coming up in the UK, so we wanted to get that out of the way. There was one that was headed by a guy who failed to disclose, by the way, he was head of this green energy group called Global Associates or something like that. There was another one that only talked to people involved in the scandal, not any of the critics, and they didn't even talk about the emails themselves. They just talked about their general academic record. So all of these whitewashes came out, and that's what allows people to say, oh, well, ClimateGate was nothing. But it's, again, like so many other things, the more you look into it, the less you can believe anything that's being said about it in the mainstream media, exactly like 9/11 or any of these other events.
JFK, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and most importantly, ClimateGate 1, did we not find out, correct me if I'm wrong, but were they not clearly hiding data and explaining how they had to hide certain data, and wasn't that part of ClimateGate 1?
Absolutely. Well, part of it, I mean, one of the catchphrases that came out of ClimateGate 1 was hide the decline, which referred to a trick that they used, because this goes into this bizarre part of climate science. I mean, there's so many bizarre things when you start to look into it, but basically one of the premises that one of these researchers was using was, I think it's called dendroclimatology, but basically it's the idea that trees can be thermometers. And we can look at the tree rings and understand what the temperatures or the average global temperatures were, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of years ago, which is kind of a ridiculous concept. But hey, if it's science, right? But then for some bizarre reason, these tree thermometers, these treemometers, stopped working as thermometers in the last 50 years, and they show a declining global temperature, whereas the thermometers, actual thermometers, show a raising global temperature. So they had to think, well, what do we do with this? So they came up with this trick to hide the decline, where they substituted the thermometer record for the treemometer record for the last 50 years. So it's this thing they came up with, and they call it the trick. And then they, when that became the sort of meme for ClimateGate 1, then they started to say, well, trick doesn't mean trick in the sense that they're trying to deceive you. It means that they're doing something that requires a skill or something. So again, it gets spun off into so many different things. But I hope people will actually read some of the emails for themselves and try to situate them in context, because I really do think it indicts them in their own words.
And so in your opinion, what are they after? They're lying about the real reasons for this. What are they after with all this global warming nonsense?
Well, I think it depends on what they are talking about, because I think the scientists themselves who are involved in this, I honestly think a lot of them truly believe in what they're doing, and they truly believe themselves to be doing a good job. But I think ultimately for the scientists, a lot of it comes down to the professional sort of, I want to be proven right. And in fact, that was one of the emails from, I think, ClimateGate 1, if I remember correctly, was one of the scientists was basically saying, I don't care, I just want to be able to say, in the end that we did the right thing, or it was all right. I don't care about the science, something like that. I mean, it was a remarkable quote. But I think that goes to the mentality of the people who are really involved in this. I mean, there is certainly a monetary aspect to this as well for those scientists. I mean, clearly they get tens of millions of dollars in some cases, like Phil Jones, for doing this and for portraying this and for hyping up the alarm. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't think necessarily they're doing that consciously, but I think they understand that the more that there's alarm and concern, the more important they become. So there's that aspect to it. But I think the overall agenda in terms of, the more strong level with the UNFCCC and all of that is clearly about control. And it was one of the things that I found really startling was back in November of 2009, just before the original leak of emails, there was a UK minister for energy, or I can't remember the exact term, but he came out and basically said that there needs to be carbon allowance cards in the UK. Right, that was Lord Smith of Finsbury, an appropriately hoity-toity name, and he came out and literally just before ClimateGate broke, he was saying that there needs to be carbon accounts, and basically you get a certain rationing of carbon, and you use this every time you buy gas or whatever, and when your carbon allowance runs out, then you have to pay an extra tax in order to get more allowance. Yep. I mean, that's exactly the type of system they're trying to set up, and that was their dream. And they were really, in many ways, on the cusp of doing something like that in Copenhagen in 2009. But just as it came out, ClimateGate broke, and that really did change the momentum to a large extent. And thank God for that, because I shudder to think if that agenda had continued going along with the steamroller momentum that it had, because we were so close to getting some sort of carbon allowance type system instituted. And once that thin edge of the wedge gets in, I mean, can you imagine the eugenics atrocities that could be committed?
Well, yeah, they're essentially making you pay to live. That's what they're working on here. pay to utilize the air, which you are. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Unbelievable, but unfortunately true, and
yes,
that's the thing that we have to understand. Also, it's a war of attrition like everything else, and they're not going to stop with the agenda just because of something like ClimateGate. They're going to continue doing it and trying different ways to do it and bringing out new memes and new ideas. If climate change doesn't work, they'll throw out sustainable development, they'll throw out extinction of species, they'll throw out water resources, or whatever it is that they can use as a toehold to get more power over people's lives.
Right.
They will do it. So, I mean, we have to continue fighting back against this. And really, I think, striking at the root rather than the branches, and the root is this eugenics philosophy. And if we can expose that and really get it into the general public's consciousness that this is not something that's in favor of you, it's not something that's going to work for you, this is something they want to do to control and ultimately force you and your progeny out of existence. Once we can get that through people's heads, I think they'll be harder to control in this way.
Well, if we can convince people to find their own way to survive on alternative energies, using sun, and I mean, this is like basic stuff. I mean, if we don't have to depend, if we're self-sufficient, if we can rely on our own minds to produce energy for ourselves, we could survive and basically phase out the globalists, phase out the governments. I mean, they wouldn't have any control. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's my main message, is that independence comes from food independence. It comes from energy independence. It comes from getting ourselves off of the system that they use to control us, because in so many ways we can try all we want to fight against this beast system that they're creating against us, but really, I mean, it comes down to us taking ourselves out of that system and just setting up our own system, because that's the only effective way to counter what's going on right now. So we have to start building local communities. We have to start supporting farmers markets and trying to participate in community gardens and whatever it is that we can do to try to get ourselves off of this ridiculous system that they've created, where we have literally handed so much of our sovereignty to them and continue to do so on a daily basis every time we shop in their stores and buy their gasoline and do whatever it is that we're supposed to do to fit into their system. The more we give ourselves over to that, the more control they have over us.
And the point, yes, exactly. And that is the point of this show, is individual liberty. And whenever the establishment, they talk about, oh, well, we need energy independence. Well, they're talking about as a nation. No, it needs to be individually, your own family, finding your own way to survive. That is the key. And I think we're about out of time with you, but we got to have you back on here. You're the first interview for this year, for 2012, on Liberty Talk Radio, and I want to have you back again as soon as possible, which is probably not going to be very soon, considering all the stuff you got going on. But
well, anytime, guys. Just let me know when you need me.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been great, all the information, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well, James.
I certainly did. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Awesome. All right. Once again, Corbett reports. What was the other one? I was just looking at it.
ClimateGate.tv. I also have FukushimaUpdate.com. I even have AlQaeda.doesn't-exist.com about a documentary that I started a couple of years ago and never actually finished. I guess it's still in production, we'll say. And I also have ReportageBook.com about a book that I've started and have not finished yet. So I have a lot of projects on the go, but you can find it all from CorbettReport.com. That's the central hub that you can get all of those spokes.
Awesome. Okay, well, I might consider putting up a Corbett.com link on my website, which is LibertyTalkRadioShow.com. It's actually very plain. There's not much to it right now, but I think that would be, if you wouldn't mind, I would.
Hey, absolutely, no problem at all there.
Cool. All right, Mr. Corbett. Barry, any last comments?
I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure and a very informative conversation from Mr. Corbett, as always, and hopefully we'll be in touch.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right, thank you again. Goodbye. All right, so another very powerful interview here on Liberty Talk Radio on the WTTW Radio Network, which is partnered up with We the People Network on Facebook. You could find We the People the group and the community page. Let me make sure. Yes, We the People. They're pushing our shows, Liberty Talk Radio and the Barry Paul Show, the best kept secret on the internet.
Yep.
It is. It's true.
That's what it's become. Yep. It's just not true.
Yeah.
What do they actually listen to?
Well, I mean, you got to listen. You got to listen to Barry Paul. You just have to. I can't tell you why. You just have to listen to the show.
Well, you'll know the news. You know the news before it happens.
Absolutely.
How about that?
Not only that, but you'll hear the news 2 weeks before you hear it out of the mainstream media, and you'll get the truth. So, but same. Yeah. Anyway, man, we got an hour till the Barry Paul Show, which is at 10 o'clock p.m. Central Time, and I think later I might do WTTW BlogTalkRadio.com, because I have all those sound bites, all the interviews that Julio Rosseo did in Iowa, including the one, the real interview.
We'll save it for tomorrow.
We could save it for tomorrow. Yeah, I think we should.
Yep.
No, wait.
Then we got a huge show tomorrow for
Antonio.
Sure. Do we have a guest tomorrow?
Yeah, we have Antonio Bueller. I keep forgetting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, did you hear what happened to him on New Year's Eve? He got attacked by the police and arrested and charged with, I believe it was, he was taking pictures of the cops harassing a girl who actually was doing nothing wrong. And I'll have him come on tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and tell the story. And I also asked him if he wanted us to put up, I have to get with Norm on this, maybe he could do it, but one of those pitch-in links where you could donate if he needs a lawyer or something, because I really want to help him out. For those of you who don't know, we did interview Antonio Bueller. He's a veteran for Ron Paul, former Army captain, and I believe a Ranger. He was a Ranger, and a really cool guy. We did a whole week of veterans for Ron Paul, and so you could probably I can't remember the dates, but I believe it was
back in the summer. Back in the summer, go check the August or so. I think you'll find a lot of that stuff. That was a great week of radio. Yeah, that's a good portion of the archives. Go check out is the Vets for Ron Paul week you did.
Yeah, we definitely did great interviews with those guys. I believe it was Ryan, David Earl Williams, the third, I believe, but he goes by David.
That's right.
And he's actually a representative of the Blue Republicans, I believe. Yes, Blue Republicans. Okay. I'm trying to think of the website that we're also, was it InfoWarriors United?
Yep. That's
Is it?
InfoWarriorsUnited.com. And if you go there, so InfoWarriorsUnited.com, and you go there should be a tab for radio or podcasts. And if you go to that, the list will be there, and we're in the list, and then you can see everybody else who's part of the network as well. And we'll add links to that to all our stuff. I'm unable to update barrypaul.net, by the way, at the moment, so I'm not able to add or subtract anything off of there. So at the moment, we just have to be patient. Okay.
I think we have time for one caller, and we just happen to have one lined up here. It's an 814. I think I know who this is. I'm not sure. 814, you're live?
Yeah, it's Tim in Pennsylvania. Talked to you guys a few days ago.
Pennsylvania, that's right. The New World Order Patriot, or
you got? Well, I don't know about New World Order. I'm anti-New World Order, whatever.
I'm sorry, anti-New World Order.
Anti.
So I wanted to call in here. This thing with Ben Swan and the author of the newsletter as well. It looks like somebody leaked the story. I don't know if you guys cover this or not. I missed part of the show, but Examiner has an article, and there's a few of them other ones out there, and they list an editor at Forbes, James Powell, as the author of those newsletters, and so this is pretty interesting because of the ties now with Fox News.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know what? And I watched that video today, and I didn't know if we would have time to get to that Ben Swan report. I did want to mention it, and thank you for calling in and reminding me.
Yeah, we just had James Corbett, so we actually weren't covering a lot of news, but we were talking to James Corbett there. But yeah, it's a good thing you called and brought that up. Now, I'm a little bit behind on that one. So what are you saying here? What newsletters exactly are you talking about?
Well, these are the newsletters originating from back in the 90s or whatever. They contain some racial content, but it happens that right. So now that they found the author,
I think I get it now.
Right, they've opened a whole can of worms on themselves. I mean, because really, the relationship that this guy has with Fox News, this is going to become pretty interesting now. And one other thing before I get off here, though, I want to just give a shout-out to the Ron Paul Support Bomb page on Facebook. Anybody's listening want to join up with us.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we do.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah, I have it written down here on the wall, and I rarely look at that wall, but it's there. Ron Paul.
I go there every day.
Awesome.
I gave him the shout-out last week, and then but I haven't really paid attention much. I apologize, but thank you. Definitely a great group. You guys let us, post our links on your wall, and I think that's pretty cool. But I know we get a lot of support from that group, so
absolutely.
You guys keep up the good work as well.
You too. Thanks a lot, guys. Good talking to you.
All right.
Thanks, Anti. That guy's awesome.
Oh, man. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. A friend of mine posted that on my wall, that video.
So let me recap just for the people who didn't figure out what just happened there, who might be a little slow like me or maybe slower. So the newsletters that everyone's been going nuts about, calling Ron Paul a racist or whatever about, or an anti-Semite or whatever it was that day, it turns out these newsletters are written by some James Powell guy who happens to be a Fox News guy now? Could that not be more perfect of a complete boomerang effect on these people?
Yeah. Not surprising, obviously. I mean, it's...
See, the media doesn't know what they're messing with. The media now, they're so far off the mark that the media is messing with the truth, Barry Paul says at 9/11. Exactly.
Oh, I wish James
Corbett...
Corbett...
with the truth.
Well, I'm gonna have to send him an email, and at least with that link and all the other stuff that I mentioned with the interviews. But I think maybe he should do a little piece on that as well. But they did a lot of investigation, and I was on his website, and he just got that. What was it on Ben Swan? I'm referring to. Do you know who he is, Barry?
Not really, no.
He is a reporter out of Cincinnati, WXIX, and he's a reporter of Ron Paul, and he's been backing up Ron Paul for quite a while now, and he's probably, I guess you could say, in local media, local mainstream media, he's the only one who really kicks butt for Ron Paul, and I think that's pretty awesome.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Also, let's see here. I'm looking on his wall right now.
By the way, should we not mention that Julio, the story that Julio had the interview of the that's a whole can of worms I'm opening up now. But we didn't even cover the whole story about what's going on with our story is now being covered by Fox News and InfoWars and the InfoWars Nightly News last night. Our story's everywhere. And so are we even going to talk about it now that it's out of our hands and out of control?
Let's mention that
it was our correspondent. Our correspondent was in Iowa. He got the real interview, and with what was the gentleman's name? I cannot remember his name right now.
Jesse Thorsen, the CNN lady, the total Bia,
that's what happened first. They cut him off.
Stole him away from us. She mentioned that he was. I'm just saying this to let people know that she said that he was active duty, but I believe he's a reservist. But anyway, yeah. So she kind of stole him away from us when we were about to go live with the guy. And
isn't that kind of weird? That was our little network there, and Julio mostly because he's the one who's there.
Right.
That's us, and then CNN steps in, and now they're saying he's in trouble because he was in uniform, and to tell you the truth,
I'm sorry, Barry. I think I lost you. Hello? I don't know if I lost Barry or if I've been cut off here, but let me see if I can get him back. His earpiece probably died. Anyway, so Julio actually interviewed him. I believe got a good 10-minute interview. And the CNN lady, she pulls him away, and that really got me angry. This was on Tuesday. And then they interview him, okay? And during the interview, Jesse, the corporal, he says he's about to say that we, really shouldn't be getting involved in Iran, and Israel can defend themselves just fine. And then they cut him off on a live feed. Now, the thing is that it was actually pre-recorded, and then they set it up so that he would be cut off, and then they would go to Wolf Blitzer at the CNN studio. Now, yeah, and this made it and actually Alex Jones had him on the show yesterday. Had Julio Rosseo. And he actually kind of mentioned Liberty Talk Radio. That was really cool. Thank you, my man, Julio Rosseo.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yes, it was cool. It was just like a little bit, but anyway.
Yeah.
I was so excited to hear that. Anyway, so Julio's interview actually made it on InfoWars Nightly News. And if you guys want to hear that and read the article, I believe it's, let me see here, Army considering reprimanding soldier who appeared with Ron Paul by Steve Watson at Infowars.com. And then they have the Infowars Nightly News clip. And then at about 7 minutes in, they play that interview, which we're going to play it tomorrow, but I think everybody should hear it tonight if they feel like they want to hear the whole thing before we were jacked by CNN. They dissed us hardcore, I think. But we're not as well known. We don't have, obviously, anywhere near their budget to conduct live interviews. So it really, I can't be too upset. But yeah. What else?
Yeah,
do you have
but who was
anything
for
after?
real was Julio on the ground got that interview out. The interview CNN wouldn't give you, the one they cut off because they have no respect for any of this. Julio actually got that interview out in the end, and now they're saying he shouldn't even have been speaking out. Well, they're actually referring to what he did at the event, of course, there too. But that's a whole other discussion, I guess. But
Yeah.
amazing. It's been an amazing week.
Yeah, and he really did great. Again, thank you, Julio, and the person who got Julio down to Ankeny, Iowa. We really appreciate it, and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna keep trying to get him out in the field more often to do awesome reporting. I do apologize that we didn't really get live interviews, and I was expecting to do a lot more, but like I said, our resources are limited right now, and I'm sure people understand that, but I don't want people to be too pissed off that we didn't get as much
live.
content.
You get what you get live. Sometimes you're in the right place at the right time. And but apparently Julio was where he needed to be, because that was about the biggest story he could have stumbled upon, right on top of that. So but
Plenty of time.
Still, yeah.
I'll upload all the clips that he all the interviews that he did with Ron Paul supporters and Corporal Jesse Thorman, and we'll have all that. Thorsen, Jesse Thorsen, and we'll play all that tomorrow, and hopefully have Julio on here. I'm surprised he didn't call in to ask any questions to Mr. Corbett, but anyway.
He's probably on a secret ninja mission right now.
Yeah, he's probably trying to get in the... No, I don't want to say that, but maybe, I don't know. I was going to say maybe he's trying to get into the White House and ask Obama, why are we still in Afghanistan? Why did it take you so long to get us out of Iraq? Da-da-da-da-da. But,
excuse me, sir, I have 4 or 5, maybe 6 questions at the most for you.
They're very long questions.
If I could just have 15 26 minutes of your time.
Yeah, right. Charlie Sheen couldn't get that much time with the president. Anyway, I do want to get off here now because Barry, like I said, Barry's show is starting up here in a little bit. Everybody, I think, should swing over there after this show is over. But once again, Liberty Talk Radio.
Goofing off and making animal noises. Sorry, go ahead. LibertyTalkRadioShow.com. You can find me on Facebook, Alexander.Horbol, or you could just, Google me or Barry or anybody else on the network, Dylan Reynolds, Randy, Random Randy, Troy Silvers. Yes. And I got to thank everybody for their support of our the most unconventional in radio, and there's a reason for that. It's because it's not scripted. we don't have time to script these things anyway. But even if we did, it wouldn't happen. Just not that type of people, I don't think. But BarryPaul.net, Barry Paul Show on Facebook, and also Liberty Talk Radio. We do have a Facebook page. We're starting to, the likes are coming in like crazy. So if you want to, like the page, and you'll get our reminder when the show is going to be on. But we're on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And when we do, sometimes we'll do a special interview during the day if we have to conform to a schedule of someone, of a guest. But, that's the regular schedule. So anyway, thanks again to everybody, to the support from all the listeners. And it's pretty... Barry, do you have anything else you want to mention? Anything you're going to talk on? I don't know. My throat's still really hurting, but I'm going to try to... I'll just probably goof off, like I said, and make animal noises. But I'm on at 10 p.m. Central here on Blog Talk, so look for the Barry Paul Show. And who knows what the hell's going to happen there. I'll be there, though, one way or another.
Yeah, I'll try to make it, too. I mean, I don't have anything else to do, so... Of course I'll be there. Yeah. It's my favorite show, the Barry Paul Show. But you're listening to Liberty Talk Radio on the WTTW Radio Network on blogtalkradio.com. Liberty will defend. By the way, just stay tuned by Barry Paul.
You battle, you attack. I couldn't cattle, they whip our back. And stopping orders, we obey. And for the others, they take away. Begin to happen, feels like up to tell. Take it down to what you do, not personal hell. No method, no disease. break.